There is a basic human tendency to want to influence the direction of one's own life. On different levels, everyone seeks to feel that they have some degree of control over what happens around them. This need for direction is what drives much of human action, from major decisions to small everyday choices. When that sense of influence disappears, discomfort arises. Boredom, for example, is not simply the absence of something to do, but the perception that nothing is being directed. It is as if, in that moment, there is no active participation in the construction of one's own reality. To better understand how this control works, it is necessary to observe certain forces that shape behavior and decisions. Some of these forces act like fields of influence. They cannot be eliminated, but they can be recognized and managed. These fields vary greatly. Some lead to harmful patterns, while others may even support certain goals. The main point is not to avoid them completely, which would be impossible, but to understand how they operate. The more emotional weight you place on something, the more susceptible you become to it. Whatever is given excessive importance begins to gain power over you. Intense reactions function as a kind of connection, keeping you tied to that stimulus. When that importance decreases, the effect weakens as well. The absence of emotional reaction breaks the connection. This creates a distance that prevents the pattern from continuing to influence your decisions. The less rigidly you try to control everything, the more effective control you actually have. The attempt to force outcomes creates tension, and that tension often produces the opposite of the desired result. Much of this tension comes from comparisons and extreme expectations. When something is seen as absolutely necessary or completely unacceptable, an imbalance is created. This kind of polarization tends to pull the experience precisely toward what one is trying to avoid. That is why insisting too strongly on a particular outcome can create resistance. The greater the effort to control, the greater the opposition that appears. Letting go does not mean giving up, but removing the excessive weight being placed on the situation. These same dynamics that can create obstacles can also be used strategically. People who stand out in a particular field usually do not follow rigid patterns. They stand out precisely because they maintain their own unique characteristics. When someone acts authentically, without trying to fully fit into external expectations, something different emerges. That difference attracts attention, even if initially only from a few people. Over time, that small group grows. Collective interest gradually strengthens, creating a cumulative effect. The more people connect with it, the more momentum the movement gains. This growth does not happen solely because of the quality of what is being created, but also because of context. Certain ideas expand more easily when they encounter a favorable environment or connect with something larger that is already in motion. Another important point is understanding why some experiences create cycles that are difficult to escape. Certain patterns function like unbalanced exchanges. They provide a peak of positive sensation, but demand a cost afterward. The greater the initial intensity, the greater the crash tends to be. This creates a repetitive sequence in which the person tries to recover the previous positive state, entering into a continuous cycle. The way out is not to completely eliminate these experiences, but to avoid extremes. Balance tends to be more stable than intense highs followed by deep lows. More consistent states, even if less intense, are more sustainable. Extremely powerful but temporary experiences usually come with a high price afterward. It is possible to enjoy different aspects of life without becoming dependent on them, as long as there is clear awareness of what is happening. The problem begins when something starts to control behavior instead of simply being part of it. To interrupt this type of cycle, it is not enough to stop the action itself. It is also necessary to reduce mental focus on that pattern. As long as attention remains fixed on it, the influence stays active. Another essential element involves the way ideas and solutions arise. There is a difference between what is constructed from what is already known and what emerges as a genuinely new perception. The mind organizes existing information. It analyzes, compares, and structures. But what is truly new usually appears first as intuition before being rationalized. This type of perception comes from a deeper level and is later translated into logic by the mind. That is how insights and original creations emerge. When someone begins to trust this process more, the way they act changes. Instead of merely repeating familiar patterns, space opens for innovation and authenticity. Expressing this authenticity is one of the most direct forms of personal alignment. Every person has unique characteristics, and when those characteristics are used fully, action becomes more natural. This reduces effort and increases coherence between what one thinks, feels, and does. From that point on, decisions tend to become clearer and less influenced by external pressures. The idea of control is not connected to dominating everything around you, but to understanding how these processes work. By reducing excesses, avoiding automatic reactions, breaking repetitive cycles, and acting with greater internal alignment, the effect on reality becomes more consistent. The greater the awareness of these mechanisms, the greater the freedom of choice, and, consequently, the greater the ability to direct one's own life.